I want to talk about the nature of evil, humanity. Let's talk about that, the concept of we are God. Okay. Because the whole thing is when we think about the word God, the thing is that immediately the person starts to think about the religious idea of what a God or God is. Okay. And here's the thing, when it comes to genders, when it comes to things such as like the things that I'm going to be talking about here, when it comes to, people in power and whatnot, like as far as like, I'm going to be bringing up things along the lines of the moment that a woman takes power over, let's say office, let's say she gets in power and she is now the president of the United States. That's when we know it is basically going to be over. Over. Cheers, beautiful people. Now, you'll obviously hear a lot of women get offended with this saying, how dare you? A woman has just as much capabilities as a man does. 100%. But I'm not talking about gender. Not talking about gender at all. In fact, the whole thing is, I don't even know how many times you would have to hear it in different forms that you are not the body. Okay. You're not a gender. You're not even the human. But there's a specific order that has to be applied here for things to actually work. The moment that you see that the sun has no longer order over the chaotic natures of the feminine planet, that's when you know life is going to be over as we see it coming. We got a light level of that when we saw Barack Obama in power. See, Barack Obama being a black man, you heard Tupac say, the day that we see a black president. The whole thing about Barack Obama, that's another female, symbolically. Female, and I'm urging you to think of this in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, and not gender. Because the moment you keep polarizing to gender, you're just missing the point and you'll just stay in the same repetitive loop. This is why reincarnation happens, because you just don't see anything other than humanity, a human idea, human concepts. You think about human rights, you think about anything and it's all man-made, you'll just think of it just from that point of view. Okay? When you saw Barack Obama in power, you saw the manifestation of feminine energy in power, because a black person is the expression of feminine energy. If you notice, you can see this, is very obvious. When you see, for example, you have women who are trying to be equal to the men, okay? They are trying to do things and say that they deserve the same rights and equality as a man does. And they can only basically protest, because if they bear arms, they're going to get smashed, right? So they can only do peaceful protests when it comes to them trying to be like the man. Okay, when in actuality, in this physical realm, they can never be like the man. Okay, it's sort of saying that the negative is the same as the positive. It's not. It's two totally different things. Just play your role. And when you play in that role as that expression, you'll have way more power. You can utilize the power of the other as long as you don't deviate from the fact that you are that negative energy. A woman has just as much capabilities as a man does. Yes. But there's things that you cannot deviate from the natural order. The same way I just said, the sun has to have order over the chaotic, negative natures of Mother Planet, the feminine energy of the planet. It cannot be any other way. It's that order that's why you hear Christ and man, man over woman, woman over children. But the humans, they take this literal and think that now the woman has to be the slave to the man. That's not how it works. It's just the same way where you take it literal and you start to say that because the colors of the rainbow are a certain way, that you'll see it from black and white perspective, but the color spectrum in between is the fact that you can change your gender from, if you're a man, now all of a sudden you want to be a transgender and be a woman now. You cannot. You're always going to be a man. It won't work any other way. You are still a man. That's an objective reality. To be in this realm. That's why they say you're in the world, but not of it. So the only way that I've explained this was from my last video when I talked about pronouns, genders, and whatnot. You see, you can express yourself a little bit more feminine if you're a man, but it doesn't mean that you're gay. You just have more feminine expressions. The same way some guys are very, very manly, they may have more masculine expression. And believe it or not, me knowing a lot of gay people, okay, because in New York, you see a lot of gay people, and I worked with a few of them. you'll see that the person you least expect to be gay would be gay. You're like, man, that guy is so fucking like masculine looking, all manly, expressive, and he's gay. Right? But this is the mental disorder. But the person that wants to judge that person has the same mental disorder because they're associating with humanity at the end of the day. So yeah, you can have your stance. You could talk about something, but you don't associate with that information. The whole thing is everybody's a piece of the puzzle you would need to complete your game. Everybody outside of you is a mirror aspect or a version of yourself. Now, when you look at these things and they sort of trigger you a little bit, think about why that is. Now, when I said that Barack Obama is the manifestation of feminine energy and you only got a taste of it, look at how they symbolically show you all these things. They say that that his wife, what the hell's her name? Michelle Obama. Okay. They say that she's a man. They're always talking about how she's actually not really a woman, that's actually a man. They throw that right in your face. Now, when you see guys like Joe Biden in power and he starts to talk all this gibberish shit, and I'm talking about even the fact that he said that he's a black woman in power, I want you to understand something. Joe Biden, okay, is telling you something. Even though you think that he's senile and losing his mind, he's still telling you something. They're not going to put this person on TV for this long for no fucking reason. It's just the same way they show you symbolically things in movies, TV shows, cartoons, commercials, video games. They show you a lot of shit there. Symbolically, it's up to you to know that there's something going on and that something is being told to you because everything's always talking to you. But you just think that it has to be from a smart individual or a person with credibility, and that's what you'll buy into. When in actuality, the devil has to tell you what they're doing before they do it. So everything that Joe Biden was gibberishly talking about, oh, he's telling you something. You just don't realize what the fuck he's saying. I'm talking about, he even said that he's a black woman in power. Imagine. He said that his associate or vice president is Donald Trump. All these people work together. And I forgot off the top of my head, but I saw so many like little shorts on that shit that I'm like, yo, he's literally telling you shit. He's literally telling you something. Because if you're aligned with the truth, which is God, and you're not polar, you're basically neutral, you'll be able to read between the lines. You're going to read between the lines, okay, when they're fucking you, right in the ass. So when it comes to Barack Obama, okay, yes, he is the expression of feminine energy. And they say that he's going out with Michelle Obama, who's really a man, okay? So now when you look at, let's say, now Kamala Harris, and she wants to come into power, okay? The moment that she, and the things that she stands for, the virtues, principles, and whatnot, I want you to understand something. This is where it's going to go to shit. Now, I'm not a liberal or conservative, but a lot of people, they even religionize that shit, where they will have, let's say, conservative values, but even deviate from the fact that they actually have certain liberal values as well. But they will actually hide that and close it off because if they were to express that, they'll say that they'll be judged on the fact that they're not really liberals. I mean, conservatives. When in actuality, there's a lot where if you're separating science and spirituality, you'll miss the whole ballpark of everything. Okay? Because this comes down to, notice how the big talking point was abortions and whatnot. Okay? And we're going to go here with the concept of morals when it comes to abortion. But when it comes to abortion, this doesn't even, because look, the people that are in charge of like abortions, let's say, that whole system makes trillions of dollars. But the whole thing is that you have to understand, we're not here to demonize the actual people who are either getting their babies aborted or the ones that are actually fighting against abortion. The whole system to begin with is so corrupt that it leads people into that space to begin with. It all comes down to, actually, if you're truly into religion, is working with people to actually get to know themselves. Because why would they irresponsibly have a baby to begin with? You get what I'm saying? And we'll go into what even a baby actually is when it's in the womb of the mom. What is actually happening there when these two people actually decided to become one and have this idea that we call a baby in the womb of the mom. Okay? Because that baby is an idea. The thing is that you don't look at it like that because people are doing things unconsciously. The same way you create your reality unconsciously and then you create a devastating reality, okay? You cannot change your reality. You can only mold and shape your circumstances for you to actually better your situation because creation is already created. So you're not going to get rid of it. You'll get rid of it for you in your life, but it's not going to disappear overall. In order for whatever you're looking for to exist, that opposite has to exist for you to be able to contrast what your idea of a good situation is. So in actuality, whatever is happening to you, it'll happen to you depending on your mindset and the position and vibratory state that you're in. So if you, for example, are unconsciously taking decisions and choices, you'll stay in the same loop and then your life will appear to be hellish only because of the thought patterns that you have, the ideas that you even have of yourself. So you'll attract a partner. You unconsciously create an idea with this individual in the form of sex, which is basically you're marrying this person. So you're married the moment that you have sex with this individual. And if you have sex with multiple partners, then you have multiple wives, multiple partners, multiple spouses. Because marriages, see the whole ceremony they give you to go in front of a priest for them to marry you, and then you can involve yourselves in having sex, you would have to do that first through the church so that this way you are literally consenting to the fact that they have rulership and control over your relationships. Okay? But if you're going to do it beforehand, it's still going somewhere else if you're not aware of what the fuck you're doing and who you're intermingling with. Because the whole thing is whatever's on you guys' minds and you're having sex, that child comes into the world. That's an idea coming into the world. An idea. Okay? And you two are technically God. Okay? So God is not, the omnipresent, omniscient, and the best thing that's happening on fucking the heavens of the earth. Because God is just basically an authority, a creator, and a destroyer at the same time. So when you have a child and you have whatever's on your mind, you're manifesting a child. But at the end of the day, whatever is going on here, that child coming into the world created you, okay? Whether we say that this person was the next Adolf Hitler or the next Nikola Tesla or Thomas Edison, whatever it may be. Either way you put it, that individual that's coming out of the womb of the mom, okay, manifested itself into this existence as God to experience itself in the physical. And it's happening through many different versions. This is the world of infinite possibilities, of multi-dimensions here, okay? And it all happens now in real time. So whatever it is that you're actually experiencing, you're creating it, you become God. Because let's say if you were a happy family, okay, you create a child, that child will look up to you as your God. You are God. But here's the thing, that child is just as much God as you are the moment it comes out the womb. And the whole thing is that that child actually is able to know where it's coming from, what it did as far as creating you in the reality. Because the only reason that it can't express itself is because the vessel it's in, because it's bound under space and time, the vessel is not mature enough to be able to express itself because you are in retardation mode and you can't communicate with your child. But again, you're a spiritual person going out saying, I communicate with the trees, the birds, the animals, and I'm communicating spiritually with spirits, but you can't communicate with the actual spirit that's coming out directly from you in physicality in the form of your child. So you can have a connection with your child. The child can actually express to you what the idea of life actually is and the idea of death. But you're not doing that. You're just, the child, get it circumcised, get the umbilical cord cut. You do everything through the medical procedures, okay? And on top of that, it's never really a ceremonial spiritual experience. You know what I'm saying? Like even having that birth, that child, you should be able to be in a picture perfect world. You should be able to create your child, knowing at what time you're gonna conceive this child, planning it out, right? And then you can create the next big thing on the planet, okay? Because if you really think about it, how do you know that when you die, this isn't the next vessel you're creating for you to live through? You leave a legacy for your child. That's actually you. And it's not really you because you have this idea that you have like this individuality of yourself. You're really all things. Everything you see outside of you is mirrors and reflections of you. You try to live vicariously through your child when they're alive and they're living and they're children. You even try to indoctrinate them in what you want them to be, right? But you don't realize that you're actually doing more of a control than a guiding. You get what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that I wanted to do when I was young, but I was more controlled, and then I didn't get to accomplish those things. You get what I'm saying? But if you're letting it be where you plan your child, you're doing it where you want your child to be born under a certain astrological sign, under a certain space and time, all for the purpose of when it comes to, there's a purpose to it, right? But you have no purposes because you don't know yourself, right? You don't know yourself because they're telling you to believe in things outside of you. You never really believe anything in yourself. You never believe you. So the whole thing is, if you are told there's a God in the sky, there's people that are above you, there's people in power, there's religious gurus, spiritual gurus, whatever it may be. All this goes outside of you, but not knowing that you're creating it. You're creating all these things. And on top of that, subconsciously, there's things that the same way in a dream, subconsciously, you're presented with certain things. In this reality, certain things show up and present themselves to you because you're being shown that. That's why sometimes if you wake up in the morning and say, God, please show me the opportunities that would help me to live my best life yet. There'll be things presented to you, right? In the form of certain people that will appear to be above you. But in actuality, that's just a best version of you that you can actually try to accomplish. But instead, you look at it as something to try to worship outside of you. When instead, you can either try to connect or even work with this individual or try to gain the gems and jewels from this individual. But you don't hold on to anything because it's still part of the illusion, Maya, right? It's still part of your body is projecting this reality. And this is an instrument that's presenting this reality, but it's still an instrument of the Maya too. So if you think about it, when you sit back and you say, I'm breathing, and you focus on your consciousness, right? And you start focusing on that, you're like, wow, what is it? Did I ever really exist before I was born? Do I continue to exist after I'm dead? Because think about this though. If I'm standing in a funeral home and there's a dead body in the casket, right? I exist and that person exists, but there's something missing, right? There's something missing. And I was having this conversation with somebody who is a very dear friend of mine. And it's like mind opening because these things are something that I'm like, wow, man, think about it. That person is in the casket. They exist. And I'm here with that individual, but they're void of something. There's no life to that vessel. But that's from my perspective. What if from the perspective of that individual, okay, life ceased to exist, meaning the world is over. There is nothing that's happening. I'm just happening only because that person once existed. I continue on to have this experience. Okay? So if that person, if I was to die, none of you would exist. None of you would ever exist from my perspective. From your perspective, you go on only because I was here. So it's the same concept they're telling you about Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ once lived. The only reason you're here is because Jesus Christ once lived, right? But Jesus Christ is the idea that they created for you to be able to externalize your power to believe in something outside of you to worship it. When in actuality, that image of Jesus Christ is basically your human body. And I'll get into another video when it comes down to what the actual human body and how it correlates. And I'll give it to you on a surface level. Okay. You have the 33 vertebra. Okay. Jesus dies at 33. Okay. And then you'll notice that you have your pineal gland and you have your pituitary gland. Okay. When you raise this energy up, okay, and it hits the 33rd vertebra, you go through something called the crux constellation. And then you'll notice that you got the secretion of the pineal gland, which is the land of honey. You got the pituitary, which is secreting the milk. Okay, because the pituitary will actually feed the colostrum, which actually you feed a child, but there's something called colostrum. There's colostrum and then colostrum, which you get that energy to actually get secreted from the cerebrum right back down and ground that energy. And that's how you basically come back to, like they say, oh, you know, the resurrection of the Christ. So you're basically going through this on a light level every day, every time you sleep anyway, because you produce something called DMT on a light level when you sleep. And it floods in your system dramatically when you die. So you go through these mini deaths every day. You have the opportunity to be a new person the next day, but you're running on programs and memories and instinctual programs like animals, you know, and the memory can serve you, right, to go forward, to know where you've been, but it's not to hold on to things then you continue on the same pattern. That's why it's a letting go process. Okay? But at the end of the day, Jesus Christ is the version of you. And Jesus Christ is not something you worship, and it's not a man, it's a consciousness. So somebody would actually ask you, where do you get your morals from? You can say Christ consciousness. And that's a true motherfucking answer. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you're in Christ consciousness, you don't have to follow what the religious order tells you to follow. Because if you don't follow it, there's consequences that you go to hell or you will fucking go to jail or whatnot. You just do it because you know that that's the way. You're going through the way. And that's the answer to Jesus, in the name of Jesus, is the way. I am. What are you? So when you have the way, you know the way to be conducive in this reality from the heart space, unconditionally. You're not doing it because you want to go to heaven. That's conditional love. So you're told not to hurt your partner. You're told not to treat people bad or whatnot, but you're a fucking pussy because you're just doing it because you're scared. You're still operating on the program of fear. So when you're operating on programming of fear, I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing. When you know you're doing the right thing, you're not operating on fucking, oh, I am going to do it and I'm afraid I go to hell. That's conditional love. So you're selling it. You're being good, or the idea of good, which you're really not a good, you're a bad. Okay, if you believe in the concept of bad and good, good is just positive energy, is masculine energy. But you're really negative because you're following and conceding and submitting to a certain order the same way the feminine energy is supposed to submit to the masculine energy. And I'm not talking about it through genders right now. But in manifestation form, you will have the feminine energy submit to the masculine energy. But not in a way where you say, oh, I'm going to slaverize this woman because she's supposed to submit to me. Go get me my beer, woman. Go fuck yourself, bro. That's not even how it works. Okay? That's not how it works. You're fucking lost in the sauce. And you'll notice that these are the type of people that have wives that express more of a masculine energy. You'll see it. I'm telling you, man, I don't know how the fuck you can't see it. Just pay attention. Sit down. Take your time. Take a nice deep breath. Breathe in that good ass fucking prana, baby. Shout out Ralph Smart. And you'll see that you can see between the lines. You'll see that it's all a carbon copy of something else. This is why they say as above, so below, as within, so without. What you see outside of you, you take it literal, but it's a blueprint of something that's already from the metaphysical blueprint of how it's supposed to work here to be conducive in reality. Now, the whole free will thing, you have free will. If I say, do I create my thoughts? I can consciously create a thought right now. All right. But then you're creating thoughts as you go along because you're just unconsciously going along with the waters or grabbing a channel and not realizing that that was just something that outside of you, because you're in a certain vibratory state, you may get a negative thought. And because you're not aware, you may entertain that negative thought. Your cells basically are always paying it. That's why I said somebody's always listening, watching you, paying attention. And that's your cells. Your body, you think you're one body. And you're actually a community of trillions of cells. Think about how responsible you must be. Where great power comes great responsibility. You're in charge of trillions of cells. And these cells are expressing themselves to project a reality that's going to basically show you what you actually are. How fucking crazy is that? So in actuality, my thoughts, what I eat, how I treat myself, the way I think about myself, the way I talk to myself, the way I express myself, okay? And how I hydrate myself, because your body's made of water and everything. When you're trying to look for life in other planets, the first thing they try to look for is water, right? And if you think about it, you're in water right now. You're in water. So why not take those deep breaths and enjoy those breaths? Because it's what keeps you alive, right? But it's also oxygenating your cells. It's alkalizing your body. And it's easier for your body to absorb hydration. Because people think that they're drinking water all day. And it's like a potted plant. You know what I'm saying? You could dump a gallon of water in a potted plant. It's just going to come out the bottom of the drain hole. When you drink water all day, you're peeing all day. So you're not drinking a gallon of water. You're watering yourself. That's about it. But if you're acidic and it's the reason I'm going to use this analogy. If I put the plant back outside in 90-degree weather, in a couple hours, it'll be dry again because it's so hot that it doesn't matter if you dumped a gallon of water. It didn't drink a gallon of water, but you just watered it, but it ain't going to stay hydrated for long because it's so hot. So when you learn how to breathe properly and eat foods that are going to alkalize your body a little bit, or at least correct that pH, then when you drink your water, okay, you can absorb it a lot easier. But if you want to prevent this whole pissing all day, then eat your water. That's why watermelons exist. The fruits of nature exist. Because if not, you're just doing the drugs. That's why Food and Drug Administration is in the same category. Okay? Because food is addictive and it's a drug. And it actually, you're constructing the microbiome in your body to actually be fed a certain way. So then when you don't feed your body in that way and you try to change your diet, that's why it takes discipline in the beginning, because the discipline is where you get the word disciples and you have your virtues and principles. So when you actually changing your diet, you're going to notice that these things that you're used to feeding will release a chemical to make you think you're hungry when you're really not hungry. It's that your body's a creature of habit, right? And it's doing whatever you've been doing. But if you want to change a program, the same way you go through birth pains, you go through growing pains, you're going to go through certain pains when you're trying to change your patterns too. Even changing your eating habits. It's going to be a little bit hard in the beginning. Okay? So that's why you eat the water. So you're alkalizing the environment and you're also absorbing the water on a cellular level because your body is cells. If you break your body down to the simplest form, it's cells. That's all you are. Cells and two major fluids, blood and lymph. And then the rest, what makes you an information, okay, like a transformer, is viruses, bacteria, DNA, proteins. So now you have an idea of what you look like. You can change how you look, okay? You can change what your body looks like, all with a mental thought, but then you have to go and put the work, such as going to the gym, eating a certain way, and your body will respond because you're giving it the proper sustenance for that. So in life is the same way, right? You want a certain outcome. It's not going to just fall on your lap because we're not in the realm. The mind is all, the universe is mental, but you're having a physical experience. In the realms where you're outside of space and time, you notice how things just manifest upon thought. But if everybody whose whims and fancies just seem to manifest, how do you think this world would look? Right? So it's actually good that we're under space and time. But at the end of the day, whatever you're looking at outside of yourself, you have more power than you think, including the people in power. Okay? First of all, they need your participation. Do you notice how since the whole Barack Obamas before that, people weren't really voting as much? And then all of a sudden after that, and then you get into the Trumps and the whole drama now with Biden and Kamala Harris, you notice how a lot more people are invested in it? Like, even me, I never saw the presidential debates before. But now, for some reason, I was interested in watching how Kamala Harris did against Donald Trump. How is that? Right? And I was very aware. I'm like, you know what? I want to see how this debate actually went. You got channels that are actually live streaming these things. These things weren't a fucking thing back then. But you see how they're more popularized now because they need your participation. And through one way or another, it's all distractions. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's coming to a point where if you're not aware of what Tesla said, think of energy, frequency, and vibration, and you're just in this physical shit, all right? When everything does cease to exist for you, okay? You will just be back in the same loop and you think you have free will, you think you have choices, but you have not developed your self-awareness. You have not developed your self-awareness. The same exact way, as above, so below, as within, so without. When you're born into the world, okay, you're going to look at yourself through the eyes of the baby, and the movie Look Who's Talking will tell you this shit. Look who's talking. Oh man, I'm here, la 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 la. He's talking, but the vessel can't express itself, right? You start to go through that now, since you're in space and time. You start to go through that forget me phase, right? Just like a dream. If it's not being able to be written down right away, it tends to fade away, okay? Because that's the whole point of having this experience. Because now you're under the program, you're under the world's program, but you're also guided by your parents. Your parents are God. Your parents, they give you things and they can also take it away, okay? They guide you with love. Some do it unconditionally, some do it conditionally. Who knows, right? But at the end of the day, it's up to you to wake up from that. It's up to you to wake up from that. And my videos, I'm never going to talk about anything that's not empowering to yourself. Suppose that I was talking a bunch of shit. Why would you not take the path that empowers you? A lot of people hate God. They say they love God, but they don't love God because anything that empowers them, they don't want to take that kind of responsibility. They need to be led. They need to look for a savior. They can never look at themselves in that position. So whenever they hear something like that, they'll say that's blasphemy. They'll start to point fingers and start to criticize. Oh, that's not grounded in reality. Of course it's not. Even for you to do something, you have to think about it first, right? And then you ground it in reality. So why not take this idea and ground it to some extent in reality? So if you're born, right, let's say I'll make another video separate, which will be on the abortion topic. Okay, because I think it's pretty important. But at the end of the day, I'll leave it with this just on a surface level for you to get an idea of what the fuck I'm gonna be talking about. Okay, how do you know that these babies that you're aborting aren't used for rituals in other spaces? Look at how they use stem cells. They take the umbilical cord that's cut from the mom and the baby, and you don't get a cut from that, but they'll sell it, and they get a shitload of money to be able to enhance the appearance, the benefit of other people in many multiple ways. That umbilical cord is used for the scientists, research purposes, and also to treat patients. There's much money made from that. You don't get a cut from that. So you're not aware of that, right? But then also when you look at an aborted baby, I mean, do they give you the baby back? They don't give you the baby. So how do you know what's done with that? The blood of that child, whatever it is, those cells, how do you know what's done with that? You don't know. So my friend sent me a video, which is basically showing what an aborted, what it looks like, what they do, the process. It's kind of like, it's a little mind blowing. And I'm going to tie it in the description of this video and you come out with your ideas of what you think of this. But leave the whole humanity and morality aside. Okay? Because at the end of the day, you have to look at it from a perspective now. Where say you have control of the souls that are coming in here and you're not aware. The experience is coming in here. Suppose that you're in a fucked up situation. You're poor. You can't even wipe your ass or take care of yourself, but you want to bring a child into this existence. Look at how people treat pets sometimes when they can't take care of their pets. They leave them outside in a cage. It could be fucking raining, snowing, and I've seen that. That, in my opinion, is animal abuse. They can't take care of a pet. You think they don't do this with children too? Where they're feeding them fucking garbage, boxed foods, and the way that they treat their kids sometimes? Programming another battery into the matrix. The religious order, the religion, rules the world. Religion rules the world. We look at the corruption in government, but the corruption is really coming from religion. Yet there's religious people demonizing the government, but they don't realize what they're doing. They're doing the same thing that they're pointing the finger at. The same way a vegan points the finger at a carnivore saying that they pay for, the torture and slaughter of animals. But meanwhile, they don't realize that on a different evolved level, they're doing the same thing when they're going out and doing debates and killing that individual in the debate, killing their credibility and whatnot. Everything's just ideas in this realm. The same way a cat can bring a fucking mouse to me and say, hey, look what I bought for you. It doesn't have an idea of the murder and torture it did. It's doing cat things and it's proud of what it did. It actually made its endorphins and everything go fucking crazy. All the dopamine actually, it made the cat literally have a mental orgasm because it caught the mouse. It felt the satisfaction. And on top of that, since it looks at you as God, it brings it to you. You're doing the same fucking garbage. Because since you're looking for praise outside of you, everybody outside of you is like God to you because you need their attention and praise for you to feel validated, for you to feel big. That's how debates work. Some people will actually find out the truth sometimes and they'll deviate from it only to keep catering to what the fuck they're doing that's making them money. That's truly the root of all evil. They say that money's the root of all evil. Money's neutral. Money's love. You created that into being the root of all evil by your actions, decisions, and choices that you make. Okay? And if anybody has any fucking questions or comments about that, leave it in the comments. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of channels that are actually talking about topics like this. And that's why when I was talking to Aaron, I told him I wanted to talk about the feminine topic and whatnot. That was somehow discarded, right? Because we're looking at it as genders. We're looking at it as something that, it doesn't make sense to talk about. When actuality, I'm going to tell you, and I guarantee it, you'll be back in this information somehow. Because this is the fundamentals of where everything is ran from and how all these movements are started. It's through positive and negative, acid and alkaline, black and white, man and woman. Okay? Electric, magnetic. That's how you create reality. Using chemistry. So they use the chemistry against you by using your mind. They alter your brainwaves. You go into a hypnotic state. They'll use certain pretty words, neurolinguistic programming, and you fall into that loop to try to participate in some type of fucking polarized act. If everybody knew how to actually do the shit, well, they'll have a stance, but still at least agree to be open-minded toward the other person, and leave the ego aside and not worry about losing or fucking winning a debate, I think it would be a lot better off. And people who listen to debates, I guarantee half of them don't even know what the fuck they're listening to. They're just seeing the dramatic aspect of it. They're seeing who's winning, who's getting embarrassed in the debate, who is getting demolished by the fucking chat. That's all they're interested in. They don't even really, if I was to ask one of those fucking viewers, hey, can you repeat what the fuck this topic is about, and at the root core of it, what is it that they're talking about? They won't even know what the fuck they're talking about. And some of them want to pretend they know what the fuck they're talking about, so they want to put their 2 cents in to fucking share their points, but they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Okay? That's all I got for this video. I'm gonna make another video. And when I talk about the abortion part, it'll go into even how a baby inside the womb robs certain things from you in order to stabilize its foundation. And that's calcium. Notice how women's nails, hair, skin, they all tend to get brittle. Why? Right? There's certain things that's required for that baby, but you're eating a certain way and you're not catering to that, so the baby has to rob that from you. The same way the body does the same thing. Okay? When you're not giving it the right nourishment or the right sustenance, the right hydration. And this highly influences your moods. Why women get moody? If you're not pregnant, you'll still get moody because you impair your parathyroid. So you actually you have lack of calcium utilization, you impair your B12 in your body, and then all of a sudden now you feel like you're depressed. And because you're unaware, okay? And think about this though, your life here is about developing that self-awareness for you to be able to build something that in the metaphysical world, okay? And again, don't take it literal, but just think about what the fuck I'm saying, okay? You're developing your spaceship, okay? And you do this through relationships, relatability, okay? But think about the relationships you have at your current moment. Why are those your relationships? How come you don't have relationships with different people, places, and things than the ones you have now? Think about that. What are you doing every day that's keeping those people related to you? Because even the whole related thing, okay? That's why people say brothers and sisters, you know? The people who even listen to you are related to you to some extent through common frequency and vibrational purpose. It's called a vibration, a contagious vibration, okay? And you spread mind viruses through words because people are not aware of what they're letting in. That's lack of masculine energy. So when you don't have the masculine energy intact, anything just comes in and gets programmed right into the subconscious mind. It's like leaving your bitch open, right? So you don't have big dick energy because everything you're listening to, you're just buying into it. And then you participate into it. And then you, aside from buying into it, you're paying with interest because you're more interested in it to the point that you even take out physical money to support it. Little dick energy, bro. Little dick energy. And women can use big dick energy too. But you just don't know what the fuck I'm talking about because you're only associating it with gender. See, a woman has the ability, okay, to strive in this life on her own. You get what I'm saying? But from the negative state that she's in, she would have to become self-aware and know that she's of the negative nature regardless. Only because she's more connected to that emotional state, okay? And if she knew how to manage that power, that's why the witches were burnt at the stake. Back in the day, right? Because let's say the Jesuits or whatever it may be, the people that want to maintain that power, they needed to maintain that power. That's only a physical manifestation of the ego online. That's all it is. The same way you see the people in power now. Okay, I made a bit, and then you'll get into conspiracies on reptilians. You'll get into conspiracies on, like, you know, these things. They're just, these metaphysical forces are just a manifestation of you, which is why I'm going to talk about white and black magic as well. Evil and the concept of good, where that whole shit comes from. Why do people run away from the negative side of things, the dark aspect, the black magic side of things, right? I'll make a separate video and we'll talk soon.